Lei and Zhao Lusi, the story fans still can't forget. Before we begin, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss powerful drama stories like this. What you are about to hear is not just another drama recap. It is an emotional journey that millions of fans around the world still refuse to let go of. A story that lives inside edits, rewatches, fan discussions, and emotional memories that never truly fade. So stay with this until the end. Because if you love emotional Chinese drama stories, this one will stay with you long after it finishes. And by the end, you will understand why fans still call it unforgettable. There are stories that entertain. There are stories that impress. And then there are stories that stay with you like a memory you never lived, but somehow still feel. The story of Lei and Zhao Lusi belongs to that rare category. It does not simply play on screen. It settles in the heart. It grows in silence. And it refuses to leave. To understand why, we return to the beginning. Not the beginning of fame. Not the beginning of popularity. But the beginning of a world built on destiny, emotion, and choices that change everything. A world where every step carries meaning. A world where silence often speaks louder than words. At the center of that world are two individuals walking completely different paths. A young man shaped by discipline, pressure, and expectation. Someone who learned early that emotion must often be hidden behind strength. Someone who carries responsibility like a weight that never disappears. And a young woman who seems bright and effortless on the outside. Full of charm, warmth, and energy. But underneath, she carries quiet determination. A strength that does not need attention to exist. When these two worlds begin to move closer, nothing happens instantly. Nothing feels forced. Nothing feels predictable. Instead, everything begins in silence. A glance that lasts a little too long. A pause that feels slightly too meaningful. A reaction that seems simple, but carries hidden emotion. And that is where everything starts. Because the most powerful stories never begin with chaos. They begin with connection. At first, they are simply two individuals moving through their world. Focused on duty. Focused on survival. Focused on what life demands from them. But slowly, something begins to shift. When they speak, the words feel heavier than expected. When they stand near each other, the air feels different. When they look at each other, the moment lingers longer than necessary. Fans notice it immediately. Even before the story fully unfolds, viewers feel something unusual. It is not loud. It is not obvious. But it is undeniable. A chemistry that cannot be explained by script alone. And that is where obsession begins. Viewers start paying closer attention. Every scene becomes meaningful. Every expression becomes important. Every interaction is analyzed, replayed, and discussed. Because something about this pairing feels different from anything else. As the story unfolds further, the emotional world becomes more intense. Challenges begin to rise. Trust becomes fragile. Situations become more complicated. And every decision carries consequences that cannot be ignored. But through all of this, one thing remains constant. The connection between them. It does not matter how chaotic the world becomes. It does not matter how far apart circumstances push them. Something always brings them back together. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But naturally. Like gravity. And this is where viewers begin to lose themselves completely. Because suddenly, they are not just watching anymore. They are feeling. When one character suffers, the audience feels it. When one character smiles, the audience feels it. When silence falls between them, the audience feels that silence too. This emotional connection is what transforms a simple drama into something unforgettable. As episodes continue, the bond deepens. Not because life becomes easier, but because every moment becomes more meaningful. Every small gesture matters. Every shared glance feels significant. Every emotional shift feels real. And fans cannot stop watching. Clips begin spreading across platforms. Edits appear everywhere. Music mixes with emotional scenes. Comment sections fill with reactions from viewers who cannot move on. People from different countries all express the same feeling in different ways. They do not fully understand why, but they feel it deeply. This story stays inside them. Even when they try to move on, they return. They rewatch scenes. They replay emotional moments. They listen to the soundtrack. They relive the feeling again and again. And that is when a drama becomes something more. It becomes memory. It becomes emotion. It becomes something shared across millions of hearts. But what makes this pairing even more unforgettable is not only the story itself. It is the emotional experience it creates. A feeling of longing. A feeling of hope. A feeling of connection that is difficult to describe. It reminds viewers why they fell in love with dramas in the first place. Not because of perfection, but because of emotion. Because of moments that feel alive. And even after everything ends on screen, it does not end in the heart. It continues. In conversations. In rewatches. In edits. In memories that return without warning. And that is only the beginning of their impact. Because behind every unforgettable story, there is something deeper happening beneath the surface. When the drama reached its peak, viewers were completely absorbed. Every episode carried weight. Every scene felt important. Every emotional turn created discussion across the internet. Fans were not just watching a story unfold. They were living through it emotionally. And that emotional immersion is what made it unforgettable. Because in that moment, Lei and Zhao Lusi were not just actors on screen. They became the center of a shared emotional experience. A connection between story and audience that is extremely rare. And as the final moments approached, something unexpected happened among viewers. They were not ready to let go. Even though they knew the story was ending, emotionally they were not prepared. Because saying goodbye to something that touched you deeply is never easy. After the final episode aired, the silence that followed felt different. Not empty, but full of memory. Fans returned to scenes they loved. They replayed emotional moments. They searched for meaning in details they missed before. And slowly, the story continued to live on. Not in episodes, but in hearts. In discussions. In edits. In emotional reactions that never fully stopped. That is why even now, years later, people still talk about it. Not because it is trending, but because it is unforgettable. And that is the true power of storytelling. When something becomes part of you. When it stays long after everything else fades. When it refuses to disappear even with time. Lei and Zhao Lusi created a story that did exactly that. A story that still lives in the minds of millions. A story that fans still cannot forget. And perhaps, never will. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more amazing drama stories.